Deb, thank you so much for being with us today on the 11ish podcast. As you may know, we're talking today about Varia AI. Today, what I'm going to be kind of focusing on, or kind of the approach I'm going to be taking, is looking at it from four lenses with my questions: product channel, channel to model, and then model to market. And we'll jump into each of those as we go through the conversation here. But before any of that, tell us more about yourself. Tell us more. What is Varia AI? What's
Yeah.
the problem you're solving?
First of all, before I started Varia AI, I was actually a product dude. I built skincare and beauty products for a living at a company backed by LVMH called Oddity. And so literally I would spend time in working with labs and pharmacies compounding products. So I totally get you on the product stuff. That experience building skincare products actually led me to build Varia AI. So Varia AI helps consumer brands provide an AI powered shopping experience on their own site. And number two, it helps them get recommended when they're offering products on ChatGPT when someone's searching for them. We build the infrastructure that these brands need to actually capture AI native traffic as well as convert AI native traffic when they land on site. Now, the reason why this is a really important thing for brands to do today across the board is because OpenAI is trying to become the default way that consumers will shop today by its announcement last week about the instant checkout feature where someone can buy directly on the actual ChatGPT interface. This, as any brand knows, poses a couple of consequences for them. Number one, how do they set themselves up to actually get recommended on ChatGPT and show up there? But number two, how do they protect their current direct-to-consumer website so that consumers still go to their site in the first place so they don't lose all these customers that they have loyal to them to a new AI-powered interface? And so that's why we're helping them solve with our product.
When I was listening to the announcements from them, it definitely threw off some alarms in my head, especially as
Yeah.
someone who's, as the years have gone by, I'm like, I want to remove as much dependency as I can off of pretty much every big tech that I could. So I can imagine for a lot of these brands, there was a little bit of hesitation to hear that everything's going to have to go through this one platform potentially. So I'm really curious to see as we get through these, through our conversation, how Varia is really going to give brands and companies that independence. So you're helping these brands out. So I guess the first question, of course, is around product market fit. How did you figure out the specific niche, the specific market
Yeah.
that you wanted to focus on with your product?
What a great question. So, as I told you before, I was actually working in a consumer health skincare brand before I started this journey. When I was at the skincare brand, I was responsible for the quiz that consumers took before they were assigned a skincare product. But what I realized was if I just went on ChatGPT and provided all my personal information around my skin habits and how I take care of my skin and what I eat, it was able to provide me a much better quality of recommendation. And that's what was happening. There was a lot of traffic coming from ChatGPT to brand sites because people were using that as a discovery interface. And so that made me realize that brands really need to readjust their digital presence in a world where someone's having these long form AI conversations on ChatGPT and then entering a website. I very much think about our product in terms of KPIs. So how do I build a product which is able to, for the problem that we're solving, attract AI traffic and convert AI traffic? Attract is the volume of traffic that comes from ChatGPT to a site. How do we increase that as much as possible? And number two, when that traffic actually lands on the site, how do we ensure that it converts and actually buys a product, on the site? Ultimately, like everything comes down to those two KPIs. If those KPIs keep moving in a direction that we like, we're doing great. If it's not, that means we're not delivering for our customers.
So I love that you mentioned KPIs because I mean, I'm fully guilty of this, by the way, having tried to
Yeah,
start my own startup not too long ago, where you forget, you lose sight of them. And all of a sudden, it just becomes like, cool, let's just build features for the sake of features. So it's
exactly.
awesome to hear you mention that. But why did you choose those two KPIs? And this is something that I think is really important to answer with respect to, if someone is going to look at the growth of your company and understand where are you going.
The way I think about it is sites have six funnels of traffic. They have social media traffic, so TikTok, Meta. They have paid search traffic, which is someone paying for an ad. Then they have organic search traffic, which is number three. Then they have traffic coming off someone directly going to the site, so that's the fourth major funnel. Then they have referral traffic, and then finally have some little other X bucket of traffic. For most sites, direct traffic and organic traffic, which is someone Googling for you online, are the two largest sources of traffic. They represent around 80% of traffic for our e-commerce site. Now, AI or ChatGPT threatens the entire model of organic search, right? Because now someone can get a lot of their answers in this long form conversation and never enter your site in the first place. And so the question becomes, in a world where AI is the way that people are organically searching for products, your goal is to get as much of that AI traffic as possible. And number two, ensure that when they land on your page, to make sure they buy or transact with you in a certain way. So for our company, if we're doing our job really, really, really well, we should be able to effectively attract that traffic. And number two, effectively convert that traffic so we can grow your bottom line, which is your revenue. So that's the framework we kind of use to think about those KPIs.
Is it appropriate to say this is a B2B company?
Yes.
And so how are you identifying who your actual, who is that market that
Yeah.
is your paying customer, you want to say?
This is always a thing that I'm constantly optimizing. But so when you look at the data, um, there's five main topics of AI discussion: finance, legal, insurance, SMB, and the fifth one is health. Health is the only consumer-oriented topic of discussion that people are using with AI. So then the question becomes, people that are selling health products, both prescription and non-prescription, are likely the ones that are going to be affected by this problem the first. So we targeted health within the health brands. Then we went a little deeper. Within health, there's so many verticals. There's skincare, beauty, cosmetics, fragrances, supplements, gut health testing, all of that. Within those segments, we were like, where is AI the most useful? Whenever it's a complex health decision, is when something like an AI is quite useful. So we went after companies like In Vivo Healthcare and Protein Factory, companies that have a real detail-oriented approach to providing treatment and providing recommendations for what consumers buy. And so that's exactly how we found the niche that we're targeting: consumer health brands that are providing, you know, advice on complex health decisions. And that's exactly how we found our, I would say our ICP in the world of startups.
Ideal customer profile. We'll never forget that one. That was a hard lesson I had to learn.
I mean,
The idea of targeting and staying focused on a single target customer.
it's
So,
hard though. I have to say to you, it's hard. And my co-founder every day we're like, oh, let's do that, let's do this, let's do that. Our board member yesterday was like, Dev, you got to stay focused. You can't just do everything. You have this, you have that. So I hear you. I struggle with it. It's great to say, hard to execute. Yeah,
so you have this market that you've identified. You clearly know kind of who they're chasing after. How are you actually meeting these
yeah.
brands? I guess we want to say now we're kind of shifting to the product channel fit. The product you've built, how does it fit into the different sales channels that you're meeting these brands in?
From a go-to-market standpoint, like how do we get in touch with these brands and how do we get them convinced that this is the right thing for them? I've had a hard lesson on this. I used to believe that cold outreach, cold sales calls was the best way of getting brands. And although our first few customers came that way, what I've realized over the last few weeks is that building communities around the problem that you're solving is a very, very, very effective way to drive recognition of what you're solving and the product that you're doing, especially if it's a world-class product. So for us, the first strategies we started off with was cold outreach. The second one we pursued was thought leadership, posting content about this new shift and what it means for brands. What we found was that as great as that was and as it worked, it wasn't scalable. People weren't immediately like, yes, I get it. So our third thing that we launched was a referral program, a program so that we could get a community of people in the consumer health, direct to consumer e-commerce space, bring them together and convince them like this is a problem that every brand will need to fix. And Varia, the company, has this approach and solution and a very thoughtful way of solving it. And we were able to bring together those groups of people. And a lot of those relationships and the community that we built is now what's going to be driving our business in the future. And so when you said product sales channel, like I think what's really important for us is to educate our buyers about the problem and ensure that they can find someone who is trustable in the space outside of just the people that are selling it, that are making it, that can say, oh my god, this is a great product, they can vouch for it. And so like that's been a really critical part of our growth strategy.
How quickly did it take you to find it? And in the sense, you mentioned a couple of channels, you landed on referrals. So I'm assuming there was some type of, you had some math behind choosing referrals being the best ROI there. But how long did it take you to go from the cold calls to finding this optimal channel? And how did you measure that the referrals was the right channel?
Yeah, so I mean, it's kind of this is where startup luck, I would say. So the cold calls were and the cold outreach. I think I sent out probably thousands of emails, and our first two customers actually came from that approach. So I would say getting the early adopters, like the first two, three brands, cold outreach was the best. But just the hit rate and the volume and the speed of the deal going through was just so slow. However, those two customers allowed us to really flesh out the product and build something that's really, really cool and interesting. And so once we had that like world-class experience, a world-class product, it was way easier to go to someone and just give a quick demo for another brand and them to be like, oh my God, this would be so useful for me. Then we went to the entire thing around thought leadership, so posting a lot of content. That was getting us a lot of eyeballs, but it wasn't getting sales. It wasn't converting people. It was getting a lot of investor interest, but not consumer interest. And then finally, the referral strategy. I did it. I brought in four experts or four people with our thought leadership. They connected me to like six people each, and two of them ended up becoming very strong leads and then eventually customers. So it was, if I just find 20 more of these people, I'm sure I can just replicate this. It happened in a week, literally a week.
A week versus how many? How many weeks did you say before
I
it
mean,
took just to?
it was a month for two leads, but it was not just that. It was like five 30-minute conversations made up for like probably like 300 hours worth of work.
So I get on that note, and I'm going a little off script in my questions here, but I guess in terms of advice you would give to somebody that is in that moat right now, because I want to get this in the hands of somebody, and the first thing that comes to mind is let me go spam a bunch of people on LinkedIn and find emails and spend hours, doing whatever I can to find anybody that'll give me attention. What would you advise somebody that's in that moat right now?
When you don't have a clear idea of the problem that you're solving and if your solution works, the cold spam method allows you to find those initial adopters that are going to help you shape the product. So if you're in the mode of like, I don't know really know what I want to do, I have something, but I'm not sure if it works, I would still stick to cold. However, once you've identified that you're solving a clear problem, the first thing I would do is pivot to a model where you find a bunch of other people that are influential in the space that are talking or concerned about that problem. And you find that just by reading a lot of LinkedIn, reading a lot of X, just reading stuff. And then just reaching out to those people and say, look, I created this thing to fix this problem. Like, what do you think about it? And then if you did a really good job, it'll spread. So if you're in a place where you feel like you've developed something really, really high quality and you're trying to figure out how to scale it, how do I get this into more hands? How do I get more eyeballs on this? I would find other people that are not startups, that are operators in this space, that are concerned about this problem. Send them your product, not to sell, just to get their feedback. And if it's really that great, they will do the extra work for you by recommending it to people that need that specific solution. I think it's a discipline that Benedict, my co-founder, and I have had to develop. And we oftentimes are flexible. Like, for example, we previously only worked with products, but we've now opened up our product to services, so like medical spas, which we thought was a little bit outside of what we're trying to do, but we thought that it could be a really good fit. So, I mean, as a startup, you do have the benefit of being very flexible, especially in the early stages. So you have to kind of take that advantage, but at the same time, you can't be so flexible that you're just doing everything all at once because it's exhausting. This journey is exhausting. You know this. It's extremely exhausting. There's no guarantees. So you want to make sure that whatever problem that you're solving, you're doing it well for one person. Because even if it doesn't go as well as you think it would, you'll be proud of the work that you did for that one customer. You'll make someone else's day or life way easier. And so like that's kind of how I think about it. I want to be proud of whatever I did. I want to make sure that it benefits that one person and it benefits them so well that they smile. So that's kind of our approach.
That's awesome. That's so refreshing to hear. So now moving into the channel to model fit. So you have this referral channel that you're using and you're finding success with, but is the cost of acquiring every customer via referral match with the business model that you're putting in place with how you're actually charging them?
The way we think about it is, and this is psychology, I genuinely believe that people refer others not because of the money. They do it because they want to be part of something bigger. They want to feel like they're solving someone's problem. Like it's a basal core human desire to help someone solve their problem. And so obviously you have financial incentives for referrals, but you also have social incentives. The idea that if you're solving something, you get recognized for it. Then you have, incentives around uh, being a career development and professional development. So what we've tried to do with our referral program is kind of layer all three of those incentives in. so that it's not just purely financial, it's not purely career development, it's not purely social. So from a pricing standpoint, in terms of the price that we actually offer the brands that are buying our product, obviously the person that's referring us will get a commission on that sale based on the size of that deal. That's no stakes. But because we want to make the person that's doing this for us realize, feel like they're part of our team, right? They're part of this journey with us. We recommend them and show their faces on LinkedIn. We have a Slack slash WhatsApp group where they can kind of have conversations with each other. If they're in person, we'll do like an in-person like dinner or drinks. And like we really, really try to make them feel like they're part of the Varia AI team. Like that's like really important to us. And one thing I also tell them, especially some of the younger ones, I tell them like, look, AI is going to re-impact everyone's career. And knowing AI and being part of this journey with AI will allow you to be someone long term with experience that's extremely valuable in the workplace. So this is not just about a SaaS product or a problem or a relationship. It's about defining your career and setting yourself in such a way that you advance in the future and you have this very, very, very important relevant experience that you can talk about in the next time someone asks you, like, what were you doing in the AI space? Like, what have you been working on? And we try to make sure that our incentives don't kill our acquisition costs, because that's not a business. That's just giving things out for free. What we try to do is we try to layer in things that are not as financial into the referral program that makes sure that the people that are working with us get something more than just money, right? They actually get credibility. They get to be known in this field. We try to be creative with the way that we design the referral program so that we don't bankrupt our entire core business.
Staying strategic with it, of course.
Yeah.
So now focusing more on the model piece, how are you actually charging them?
Yeah, so we are funny that you bring this up. Our model is tied directly to the capture and convert. So we believe that the way that our experience looks like on a site, just to provide some context, is when someone lands from ChatGPT, instead of landing on a static site, they land on a chat experience that the brand has created for their own products and their own services and their content. So you're having a natural chat to chat experience from ChatGPT to the brand site's version of chat. And that chat is intelligent in that it's able to do some pre-detection that you're traffic from AI. It's able to detect a little bit about your intent of why you're there, what line of questioning got you there, and then it's able to guide you to a product or service. And so ultimately, the capture and convert piece can be fully measured by the usage of our product. Our goal is to capture and convert AI native traffic that likes to use AI to make decisions about their life. And so if our usage is higher, that means we're either, number one, able to capture more traffic that's coming on. And if the conversations are longer, which they generally, whenever they are, means a purchase is happening. So if we find for a brand that people are having 1-2 word searches and then leaving, we're not going to make money on that. We lose money on that. I mean, not even lose money. We charge zero. We charge basically zero. But if they're having very in-depth conversations, then it's a much larger bill. And so just to give you some metrics on our product, I mean, we have a 20% add to cart rates. I mean, it's 20% of the people that use our experience add to cart. That's almost 100% higher than the benchmark for normal search bars, normal like chat experiences. Number two, 50% of people that actually use our product re-engage in the same session with 11 or 12, 13 different messages. So that means they're really, really deeply engaged in a conversation. Number three, the average length of the message that they're giving is around 7 words. That's 100% higher than what a Google search average search word query is on 3.5 words. So people are actually having a conversational experience on the site when they're interacting with it. So ultimately, all of that comes down to usage. The more words, the more messages, the more we charge. The less words, the less messages, the less we charge. And ultimately, both that is directly connected to both conversion and capturing.
Now, obviously, the usage model, of course, I mean, we see it a lot in different contexts. It's very interesting, though, to see it here where it's very much based off of the actual engagement
Yes.
with your customer's customer. Looking at it from the model you've built for the market that you're serving, how have your clients and potential leads found that model? How do they feel about the usage-based model?
So far, they are very happy with it because the bill for them is much lower than if it would have been like, so there's a lot of value-based rules around, like you get $1 for every purchase that someone makes or $1 per appointment. We don't really follow that model. We're not taking any merchandise value. Like we're not taking a percent of the amount of dollars exchanged on our product through our product. So I think they really like that. But one thing that I have to say, and this is a bit of a controversial statement, I really think that AI is kind of like the internet back in the early 2000s in the sense that it should, in my opinion, like making a website or using AI should be free. I think if anything, the way that we should be charging, like as Varia, is based simply on the amount of benefits we drive for our consumers. Increased revenue, increased retargeting and SMS emails that we can do using that data, like access to new data and insights. Like there's a lot of other models that we can use for pricing beyond just the usage and the charging for AI. I don't think that's a fair model to use. So one of the reasons why our brands love us is because we believe that. Like we're not gonna give you $1,000 AI bill at the end of the month. It's just not gonna happen because we don't believe in that model. We think that technology is commoditized. We don't think it's something that people should be charging for.
It definitely is a much more attractive model coming, as a business. I can imagine when you're being told that we're based on how good we help you. A common thing that I see is that sustainable? Is it actually going to allow you to grow the business? If you find that it's very much based off of the dependency on really consumers, I guess, to actually engage with what you're building.
Yes, because I think that consumers will only use it more and more, which will drive the cost down even more and more. So that's good. On the demand side, I think the demand side's there. On the cost side, I think AI is deflationary in my opinion. In the internal operations of a company, like our company powers almost $40,000 worth of merchandise a month for one brand, and it's just me and my co-founder. Like, how are we able to do that? It's because we've set up our infrastructure and operations in such a way that a lot of the processes that would normally be done by a human being are just done by AI. And so you can afford to have a very strong company that is generating revenue, generating margin with a very low price point if your operations are also set up in such a way. And this is great. This is great because everyone can now have their own business. It doesn't need to be $1 billion business to make a lot of money because before $1 billion business required hundreds of people. It can be $10 million business, but if it's only two people, like that's a great deal, right? You don't that's not, so I think it's great for people because now people have more agency, they'll have more of a life, they can do whatever they want and they won't have to like worry that making this $10 million is not enough to support myself because I have 20 other employees. Like they can get it done with just two.
Absolutely, absolutely. The last question I have to ask, and of course, it has to do with ChatGPT and all the AIs that are out there, the chatbots and everything. With seemingly more of these brands trying to bring in that traffic onto their own platforms. Like was it, I think last week ChatGPT announced a partnership with Walmart,
Right.
and having completing the entire
Yeah.
purchase within ChatGPT. How do you feel about that? Does it pose any kind of a threat to Varia?
No, because we only target verticals that are in the health space and ChatGPT is very reluctant to provide health advice. There's just regulatory concerns. So it doesn't impact us from an industry vertical standpoint. But let's say I was not in the health space. Let's say I was in the retail or fashion space. I really believe that people buy products not just because it's the best thing for them. They buy it because it feels like they open the brand site and they look at the images and they're like, wow, they're blown away. Like there's an emotional part of buying that unfortunately right now ChatGPT can't replicate. So I would say that if you're a product that has a story, that has a brand, I think that you can do a lot of things to still drive growth and be successful. However, if you're one of those brands that's just simply competing on price and simply sells products and your goal is to just sell as many SKUs as possible, it doesn't really matter who your customer is and you're just trying to have a rational, like if you're helping those types of companies, then yeah, ChatGPT is going to win there. For brand emotional powered experiences or for industries where there's regulatory risk for ChatGPT recommending, I think that those startups are fine. I also think that I think it's very foreign to a lot of people that they're going to have to buy in the same place that they're doing research. I don't think that's very common. It's not a very, not to use this, but it's not a very like in China, for example, this is very common already. People do everything through WeChat, but there's no such thing as a WeChat in the U.S. I just don't think it's culturally ingrained in the West to have one app for everything. They get concerned and scared whenever that happens, and so I think that that's why it's great that we have 5 different big AI models, and they're all competing, and then there's new ones here and there, and it's just very disjointed, distributed, which is great. It's great for the economy. It's great for the consumer, and it makes people feel a little less scared that AI is going to take over their life. I don't know if you saw, but on the Sam Altman interview, Tucker Carlson asked him whether he killed someone. Like this is there's a lot of backlash when Tucker Carlson was like Sam Altman said, the founder of OpenAI was literally said, "Did you just accuse me of murder?" I mean, and this is from I mean this is there's a large section of the public that's not happy with AI, and they don't want one platform controlling everything. And I think whenever that evidence of that starts coming in, they will resist it. It's just in I would just say it happened with Google, it happened with Apple. I mean, Apple's actually been able to do it well. I would say Apple's the one company that's been kind of been able to do it well. But think of how much privacy they put into there. ChatGPT, I don't think is
Yeah,
really doing a lot of that. You know?
no, absolutely. Well, Dev, I know I'm well over your time,
Yeah,
so
absolutely.
I
Sorry.
want to be respectful of that. Getting to meet the human side of what Varia AI and kind of the mission that you're standing behind is. Thank you so much for sharing that with us.
Absolutely, it was a pleasure to speak about it, and excited to hear more of your episodes.
To be clear, I don't ever want it deciding what color shirt I wear.
I
I'm
mean,
going to decide.
no, I give you a good example. So I built a demo for Tom Ford, which is and Tom Ford's fragrances are very well known, right? And it's so good at telling me if I'm going on a date with this type of girl at this type of place, like what fragrances I should layer. There's like hundreds of fragrances. Like which one should I layer together to like give this type of vibe? And that's unique to me, because someone else might have the same exact fragrance but think completely different of it because of who they are, what they look like, what they smell like, what their skin oil is. Like ChatGPT could never do that. It could never. I mean, the reason why is because like I had a literal fragrance expert sit with me and walk me through like exactly what works here. And like there's so many, and the reason why you wear it, the colors, the smell, like it's a very sensory experience. I just don't think ChatGPT has that piece yet. The voice is a good advantage they have. The voice is great, but unless they're able to really bring in great imagery and images, I think they're going to struggle on that piece.